Morning, morning. Today we are looking at, is it possible to control the mind? Is it possible to control our thoughts? Because the truth of the matter is that pretty much all of our suffering, all of our suffering comes from the mind. There's no other portal that suffering comes into our experience except through the mind, except through our thoughts. Even if we have intense physical pain, it can be viewed just as a sensation. There are some people who have very intense physical pain, but they make nothing of it. They just experience it. And then there are others who have very little physical pain, but make a lot of it. But mostly it's how we think about life and how we think about ourselves that causes us suffering. Is it possible to control our thoughts? And where do our thoughts come from? So, the first thing to understand, perhaps, is whether or not we're the thinker. Are we the thinker? Or are we the one that's witnessing the thoughts? Where do the thoughts come from? Do we always think from the same place? Are our thoughts more trustworthy sometimes than others? And if they are more trustworthy sometimes than others, what determines that? Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm always thinking, it's always me thinking. In other words, all my thoughts come from the same place. But clearly they don't. So where do the thoughts come from? And this has been the question of deep meditators. People who sit still for a long time, looking at and observing and inquiring into a question like that. Where do my thoughts come from? And what they have reported, and what I can confirm from my own experience, is that the thoughts arise spontaneously of their own accord, given by who I'm being, that life is in any one moment. Thoughts arise spontaneously of their own accord, given by who I'm being, that life is in any one moment. If I'm being that life is a cause of anger, and feeling angry, my thoughts will spontaneously arise as angry for as long as I'm in the beingness of anger. If who I'm being is unconscious, I'm not present, I'm just unconscious, then my thoughts will be a reflection of that. They will arise spontaneously as unconscious thinking. There are two ways I can go with my thinking. Either I'm awake, in which case I'm choosing my thoughts, or I'm unconscious, I'm being unconscious, and what is not resolved by me, what is still cooking in the unconscious of the experiences that I've had, that takes over my thinking. Jung, the psychologist, said, what you're unconscious of drives your life. What you're unconscious of drives your thinking, unless you take ownership of your mind. If you take ownership of your mind, it means to be awake. The mind has two basic functions, as far as I see it. One is to think and create thought, and the other is to focus. It can focus. And perhaps there is the key in the answer to the question, how do I control my mind? There is a story that comes from India that I really like. One day there was a guy, and he was travelling along a path, and he stumbled upon a cave. And he thought, oh, that looks interesting. And he went into the cave, and sat down, and when he woke up, he saw something shining, and he uncovered it, and it was a genie's lamp. He said, oh, and it said, rub me on the side of it. So he gave it a good rub, and the next thing he knows, this genie has appeared. And the genie says, oh, master, thank you for liberating me. I've been in this lamp for a long time. I'm here to give you anything that you want, anything at all that you want. Well, the guy, he can't believe his luck. He's thinking, okay, let's get out of here. I want to get to the city that I'm going, and I want to get there right now. So the next thing, he's transported there. And then the genie comes and says, hey, master, what would you like now? He said, I need somewhere to live. Build me a great palace. And there's a great palace is being built. And then he's just about to sit down, and the genie comes and goes, hey, what can I do for you? And then the guy goes, okay, let's have a big dinner and great people and dancing girls and, everybody looking fantastic, and just get some music going and have a party. So the genie's manifested it all. He's just about to sit down and eat something, and the genie's tapping his shoulder. He goes, master, what's up? And he goes, hey, let me enjoy this. And the genie goes, no, yeah, you've got to keep using me. Otherwise, that's how it is. You've got to keep me going. So after about 2 weeks, he hadn't had any sleep. He's got about 10 palaces. He's everything he can think of. He's asked the genie to do, and he's at his wit's end because he's not actually able to enjoy anything that he's created or that the genie has given him. He tells his friend, he's got a real problem. And the friend says, well, there's a Baba, there's a sage sitting not far from here. Why don't you go and see him? So he gets the genie and he goes and sees him. And he goes, oh, great one, please help me. I've got this genie who gives me everything that I could possibly want. I just have to speak my desire, and it's instantly manifest. But I have no peace. I have no chance to enjoy anything because it's always demanding from me something to do. What shall I do? How can I resolve this problem? And the wise man gives a thought, and then he replies, he says, build a tower. And when you're not using the genie, you tell him to go up the tower, get to the top, turn around and come back down again, and then go back up to the top and turn around and come back down again until such time as you need him. Well, the guy thinks that's just great. What a great idea. And he does that. And so he gets to enjoy all the things that the genie has brought for him. And when he doesn't need the genie is given this task. This points to something very important. Because when we're not using our mind, it will use us. If you tell your mind to shut up, will it? No, because you're not in control of it. It doesn't. If you tell it to stop, it won't stop, will it? For a few seconds it will stop. Shut up. No, it carries on. You're not in control of it. You're not the thinker. You're the observer of those thoughts. So we need somewhere to put the mind when we're not using it consciously. Otherwise, unconscious material is expressed in our thoughts. And we find it overlaps onto our living experience. For example, unresolved material gets projected onto people. Say we haven't resolved something with our mother. Then it gets projected onto a woman we might meet. Or say we haven't resolved some issue of anger. Then it gets triggered by all kinds of things that happen in the life. So when we're not focused into the now, into presence, into who we truly are, then our mind processes unresolved, unconscious material, and our thoughts become filled with that. And the thoughts can get so powerful that we lose consciousness of what this moment actually contains. So where to put the mind? Now, there are different techniques. Some people just stay with their breath, and the tower is the in-breath going up, 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 turn around and come down, 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 down. So you just put your breath, your mind into being with your breathing. And that's fine. Or, more subtly and more wonderfully, you can feel awakeness. What is awakeness? What is awakeness? And you put your mind into attending to awakeness. You give your attention not to your thoughts, but you give your attention to being awake. And that awakeness then multiplies. The more we attend to awakeness, the stronger it becomes. Now, the more awake we become, the easier it is to identify when our mind is trying to hijack us. In meditation, many people, they oh, I can't meditate because I just drift off, my mind, it never stops. But you don't actually know when that's happening, do you? You sit down and you've got an intention to focus in a particular direction, but somehow 2 or 3 minutes or however, half an hour later, you realize that you've drifted off and your mind captured you and took your attention away from where you'd chosen to put it and took it off in a completely different direction. But the more you concentrate on awakeness, the fact that you're alive, presence, suchness, the feeling of being, the easier it becomes to identify your mind. So then the next stage is that you develop some absorption. Sometimes, to start with, if one says, okay, look at that flower. Look at that flower and just focus on it. To start with, most people won't be able to focus on the flower or the candle or the whatever for very long before their mind comes and drifts off. But you can develop your capacity to focus and concentrate. And as you do, the next stage is you choose to rest your attention on something, and you put your attention on it and it stays there. You just rest your attention in a relaxed way and it just stays where you put it. In the periphery, you may hear your mind producing thoughts, but your attention is where you put it. And then an amazing thing happens. The heart opens and you come out of the place of chatter and you go into the heart, and then coming from peace, a profound silence as your attention returns to its source. And in that silence, there is no thinking. You are absorbed in the heart. So what this shows us is that it can't be right, can it? It just can't be right that we're having all this thinking all the time. You know, drink a cup of coffee, somebody upset you, and you're thinking and 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 thinking. And nothing comes of it. It's not like anything good has come of it. can't be right. To have this beautiful body, to be in this paradisical planet, and yet not to be able to experience it because we're completely captured by thinking that we are the thinker. So there must be a remedy to this, and there must be a purpose for that, and the purpose is we've got to come to the conclusion this isn't right. There must be something more. There must be a place that I can live from that isn't filled with chatter. And there is. Once we get that, then how we can do that, the way that's right for us, will appear. But it can be very, very simple as putting everything else down for a moment and recognizing the natural state. What is the natural state? Is there any thinking happening there? Is there a lot of unconscious chatter there? No. That is the beautiful awakeness. So there is this distinction between the mind and the heart. They're not really two, but it can help to see them as two. You're not the thinker. The thoughts are generated and arise spontaneously of their own accord, given by who you're being in any one moment. And you are the witness of that. And interestingly, the more you become the witness, the harder it is for unconscious thoughts to invade your reality. And then your capacity to only think as you choose increases. And then a momentum of peace, a momentum of silence is always nearby. It's closer and closer and closer until you can just want it and it's there. You know where to place your attention and it's instantly there. But that peace and that silence is just the most wonderful thing. It is the divine. And the mind is silenced there. The mind is focused there, completely focused. So that's kind of ultimate, if you'd like. That's the ultimate, returning back into the heart and being that profound silence, being connected to the Supreme, being one with the supreme peace, the supreme silence, the supreme knowingness, the supreme clarity. But sometimes, let's take it to the other end, sometimes perhaps we're anxious, perhaps we're upset, and we just thinking, we just want to stop thinking. It's just obsession. We can get easily, I had experiences of obsessive thinking, with emotion. Obsessive thinking, mix that with emotion, and you've got a recipe for hell. Oh, the person doesn't love me. And you think, at the same time as feeling unloved. Terrible hell. Sometimes that's, there's physical pain hells, but there's also mental hells that people experience. So what to do if that is happening for you? or for anyone. What can you suggest? Well, find somewhere to put your attention. But the simplest solution is to put your attention consciously somewhere else. Consciously listen to music, perhaps. Put your attention into nature. Works every time. For me, it works every time. No matter what I'm feeling, I go into nature and I quieten down and I start to feel something wonderful. This beautiful, beautiful world. Put your attention more intensely if you're feeling all of the storm going on. Perhaps put your attention into a mantra. And this brings the mind. They're designed, these mantras, to focus the mind. When the mind is all over the place, being hijacked by obsessions, being hijacked by rabid thinking, being hijacked by emotions which are supported by thought, a mantra can do it. Or just focusing can do it. Or going for a walk can do it. But the thing is this, over time, it's important that you realize the wonder that you're not the thinker. Now this is a major stage when you realize this. Because then you cease to be quite so bothered about what you think. There's something better going on. Originally it was your thoughts were like the most incredible thing, what you thought. If you're feeling upset, your thoughts will be upset. If you're feeling moody, you're going to have moody thoughts. If you're feeling traumatized, you're going to have traumatized thoughts, and that you're going to invent a meaning with those thoughts about life and about yourself. And then afterwards, you're going to remember the meanings you invented in the time of trauma, and you're going to think that they were insights and that they were reality. But they weren't. They were born of trauma. And this is why a lot of people suffer beyond the moment of their trauma, because they make up meanings for themselves and about life in the moment of trauma which they hold to be true. And of course they weren't. They were just what they saw with the glasses of trauma, through the glasses of trauma at that time. And it was not a reliable comment coming from the mind. It was coming from a traumatized mind. So thoughts aren't all that. How wonderful. What would you have to experience to get to the place where you felt thoughts aren't all that? My opinions. What? What's more incredible? Where could you put your attention? The best place to put your attention is where it arises from, the heart. Follow your breath back to your heart. Even follow your thoughts back to your heart. The cave of your heart, and there is a profound silence. The lake is completely still in that place, and in the center of the lake is a shining diamond. So it's important. You know, what do people do when they think too much? They have mental suffering, psychological agonies. Then they bomb them with drugs. These heavy pharmaceutical drugs that just knock your perceptions off. Yeah, you're not chattering away to yourself, but neither are you seeing the blue in the sky. Neither are you seeing the glory in the flight of a bird. You're just kind of dumbed down. And for some people even that is sweet relief, which is fair enough. But hopefully we're going to progress, and we're going to understand where peace comes from. And we're going to understand more and more what the mind is and what its highest function is. The highest function of the mind is to focus into the self. because then life is seen as it is. And that is an enlightening vision. Seeing life as it is all you need. Seeing the self as it is all you need. To be happy. To be happiness. So, our thoughts aren't always coming from the same place. You can only trust your thoughts when you're awake and centered. Otherwise, your thoughts are a product of who your being, that life is in that moment, and can't really be trusted. So can the mind be controlled? Yes. It can be focused. And there are levels of focus. We've talked about 2. But there are more. Levels of absorption into what is. And like a microscope, times 10, oh my goodness, I never thought this was that. Times 100, wow, it's completely different. Times 1,000, goodness me, what is this? How amazing. And our attention, our capacity to focus is the same. Naturally, all built in naturally. Constant psychological self-assessment in thought is not the path to self-knowledge, it is the path to hell. Wouldn't you say? So, meditation develops attention, the power to attend to something, the power to focus on something, and from that increase in awakeness, you can make choices about whether you want to be carried away in thought or whether you want to remain present as presence. So, I hope this has been helpful, and that you find the peace which is deeper than the thinker, and return and move through your life from a heart, but not from the mind. Because if you move through life as the thinker, you'll miss it. You'll just dream the whole thing. But behind that is the capacity to actually experience directly what truly is. And ultimately what truly is love. A love that is so indescribable. Sacred love is all there is.